The sun shimmered over the rooftops of Lagos, casting golden reflections on the glossy black SUV that glided through the narrow roads of a dusty rural village. Inside sat Micah Okoro, billionaire, tycoon, and a man known for never missing a deal. Today was supposed to be another day of business. He was scouting land for a luxury eco-resort that would stretch across miles of untouched beauty. His team buzzed beside him, showing maps and proposals, but his eyes wandered out the window. That's when he saw her. A little girl, no older than 6, barefoot on the roadside. Her school uniform was faded, her skin darkened by the sun, and she held a tray of roasted yams with surprising dignity. Micah would have looked away, he saw poverty every day. But something stopped him. Her necklace. It wasn't just any necklace, it was his. A silver chain with a carved lion pendant. Custom made. One of a kind. A piece he hadn't seen in 7 years, since the night he gave it to a woman whose name he barely remembered. His heartbeat slowed. He rolled down the window, staring. Was this a coincidence? He signaled the driver to stop. Wait here, he muttered, stepping out. Dust clung to his shoes as he walked toward her. People turned their heads. A billionaire in the middle of the market? Unheard of. But Micah didn't care. What's your name? He asked, his voice calm but firm. The little girl looked up, startled. Hope, she whispered. His eyes dropped to the necklace again. Where did you get that? She touched it gently. Mama gave it to me. Micah froze, something deep in his chest shifted. This wasn't just business anymore. Micah knelt down to the girl's level, his expensive suit brushing against the dusty ground. He didn't care. The silver lion pendant shimmered in the sunlight, and his throat tightened with every second he stared at it. Do you know who gave your mama this necklace? He asked softly. Hope shook her head. No, sir. Mama says it's special. She said it belonged to someone brave. Micah's heart thudded. Brave. That's what he'd said when he gave it away years ago, to a woman who danced under city lights and made him forget the world for a single night. And your papa? Where is he? He asked. Hope's voice dropped. I never met him. Mama says he's gone. Micah blinked. A strange chill ran through his spine. Why are you selling yams alone? Mama's sick, she replied. I sell after school so we can eat. She says God will bless us soon. Her voice wasn't begging. It was strong. Pure. It hit him harder than any boardroom deal. Micah opened his wallet and handed her several crisp notes. I'll buy everything. She hesitated. Mama says don't talk to strangers. I only sell and go. He smiled. I'm not a stranger, just someone who wants to help. But Hope had already turned, balancing her tray. Thank you, sir. And just like that, she disappeared into the crowd. Micah turned to his driver. Follow her. Quietly. I need to know where she lives. The driver nodded and slipped into the crowd. Micah waited. Minutes passed, then the driver returned, shaking his head. She's gone, sir. Like smoke. Turned a corner, then vanished. Micah stared into the distance, his jaw tight. Who was this girl, and how did she have that necklace? This wasn't over. Micah couldn't sleep that night. The image of the little girl haunted him, her voice, her eyes, that necklace. That necklace that he had given it away 7 years ago. A custom silver lion pendant, made only once. A gift for a woman whose name he had never asked. A night blurred by music, champagne, and things he'd long buried under wealth and ambition, but now, that past had a face. A child's face. At dawn, he gave up trying to rest. Instead, he packed a small bag. Inside, he placed a pair of shiny black school shoes, a new lunchbox, colorful pencils, 2 storybooks, and a stuffed toy lion. By noon, he was back in the village, and there she was. Hope stood in the same spot, tray balanced on her head, eyes alert. She saw him and narrowed her gaze. You came back, she said. I told you I'm not a bad man, Micah replied gently. He set the bag in front of her. She looked down at it, suspicious. What is this? Open it, he said. Her small hands trembled as she peeked inside. Her eyes widened. Shoes, books, a teddy bear, she whispered. All for me? Micah nodded. She looked up slowly, gaze steady. If you're not lying, I'll take you to Mama. But if you lie, I won't talk to you again. Micah smiled. Deal. They walked quietly through the village, down narrow paths and muddy lanes, until they reached a crumbling hut patched with tin and cloth. Hope knocked. Mama, someone's here. The door creaked open, and there she stood, pale. Weak. But those eyes froze Micah where he stood. She stared at him like he was a ghost, because to her, he was. The woman at the door gripped the wooden frame, her fingers trembling. Micah's breath caught that he recognized something in her face, but it was blurred by time, worn by illness. Still, her eyes held a spark he couldn't forget. She was older now. Tired. But familiar. Hi, Micah said softly, unsure of his own voice. You must be her mother. I'm Micah, she cut him off. Grace. He blinked. Excuse me? My name is Grace, she repeated, barely above a whisper. Micah froze. The name hit him like a wave crashing into memory. Grace. That night. The necklace. The laugh that stayed with him longer than he cared to admit. The woman he'd left without a word. Grace stood still, breathing hard, her skin pale with fever. She leaned against the doorframe for balance, her gaze never leaving his. Micah tried to speak but couldn't, his voice had gone dry. Grace, on the other hand, wasn't surprised. You don't remember me, do you? She asked, her tone hollow. Micah squinted, trying to piece together the puzzle. I'm sorry. Have we met before? Grace gave a bitter smile. No. We just danced. Talked. Laughed. Shared secrets. And then you disappeared. Flashback. 7 years ago. A smoky club. Loud music. A girl in a red dress spinning on the floor, full of joy. A man watching her from the bar. They drank. Danced. Then, a night in a hotel room where hearts were temporarily open. He gave her that necklace. For the strongest girl I've ever met, he'd said. By morning, he was gone. Back in the present, Grace looked at him with years of silence in her eyes. You forgot, she said. But I remembered. I remembered everything. Micah sat stiffly on a wooden stool inside the dim, smoky hut. The roof leaked in one corner, and a pot simmered weakly over a dying fire. He could still hear the rain outside, tapping like impatient fingers. Hope moved quietly, pouring water into a tin cup. She knelt beside her mother. Mama, drink. You're sweating again. Micah watched her, heart heavy. She moved with a grace and responsibility far beyond her age. He turned to Grace, his voice low. How did your daughter get that necklace? Grace hesitated, her lips dry. She looked away. I found it, outside the market. It must have fallen. Micah leaned forward, locking eyes with her. That's not true. Grace's hands trembled. That piece was custom-made. One of a kind, Micah said. I gave it to someone, 7 years ago. Grace stayed silent. Her throat moved like she wanted to speak but couldn't, then she coughed, a deep, wrenching sound that shook her small frame. Hope rushed to her side again, rubbing her back gently. Mama, please lie down. You need to rest. Micah stood and reached into his jacket. He pulled out a thick envelope. There's money here, for medicine, food, a doctor. But Grace pushed it away. I don't want your charity. It's not charity, he said firmly. Grace sat up slightly, her eyes sharper than before. You don't get to fix the past with money, she snapped. You walked out once. Don't act like you care now. Micah didn't argue. But in his heart, something twisted. The necklace wasn't just a symbol from the past. It was a thread pulling him back to someone he never realized he'd left behind, and now, the truth was hanging in the air like thunder before a storm that he wasn't leaving without answers. Not this time. Micah came back the next day, and the day after that. Every afternoon, after school, Hope would find him standing near the yam stand, waiting with a gentle smile and something in his hand, a snack, a storybook, a shiny pencil. At first, she barely spoke. But little by little, the wall around her began to crack. "Why do you come back?" she asked one day, eyes curious. "Because I like seeing you," Micah replied honestly. He helped her with homework, explained big words in her English book, and listened to her complaints about fractions. "Even rich people hate math," he joked once. She giggled and covered her mouth. They started sharing roasted maize under the old mango tree. Hope would draw pictures in the dirt while Micah watched the village breathe around him. Chickens ran through alleyways, old men argued over board games, and women sang lullabies with babies strapped to their backs. Micah had closed million-dollar deals in skyscrapers. But nothing compared to the quiet peace this little girl gave him just by being herself. One day, she handed him a small, worn toy lion. "It's for when you're sad," she said shyly. Micah stared at it, stunned. No one had given him something that simple, that pure, in years. He tucked it gently into his coat pocket like it was made of gold, but behind the joy was a growing ache. The more time he spent with Hope, the deeper he fell. Her laughter, her stubbornness, even her silence, it all felt familiar, too familiar. He didn't just care for this child, he was starting to love her, and he feared he already knew the reason why. Micah's phone buzzed for the third time that day. His assistant's voice came sharp through the speaker. "Sir, you've missed another board meeting. Investors are nervous. The media spotted you in the slums again, questions are flying." Micah stood under the old village tree, watching Hope hum softly as she balanced her tray. His eyes didn't leave her. "I told you," he said calmly. "I'm handling something more important." The assistant hesitated. "Whatever this is, it's personal now, isn't it?" Micah didn't reply. He didn't need to. That evening, Micah sat on the balcony of his sleek city mansion. Wine in his hand. City lights glowing. Across from him sat Tiana, beautiful, graceful, and every bit the kind of woman his world expected him to marry. They flipped through wedding catalogs. "This one's nice," she said, showing him a beach ceremony setup. He nodded, but his mind wasn't on the glossy pages. It was back in the village, with a girl drawing lions in the dirt, and a woman who coughed too much and smiled too little. Tiana noticed his silence. "Micah, you're not here. What's going on?" "Just work," he lied. "A lot on my plate." Later that night, while Tiana slept beside him, Micah opened his drawer. Inside lay the toy lion Hope had given him. He held it in his palm, breathing in something he hadn't felt in years: warmth, home, the life he'd built. Mansions, cars, diamonds, suddenly felt hollow. Hope had given him something more powerful than all of it. A reason, a connection, and he was scared of what that meant, because the truth was knocking louder than ever, and storms were gathering on the horizon. The rain poured like it carried secrets. Micah stepped out of his car, umbrella in hand, shoes sinking into the muddy village path. He carried a small plastic bag. Inside were fever medicine, a math workbook, and a fresh loaf of bread. He walked slowly toward Grace's hut, his heart pounding louder with each step. Then he heard her voice through the thin wooden walls. "I don't think Micah remembers anything," Grace whispered, her voice barely audible over the rain. "But he keeps coming. He brings her gifts. Talks to her like she already belongs to him." Micah froze. He hadn't knocked yet. He stood motionless, breath caught, heart on fire. There was silence for a few seconds, then Grace spoke again, and this time, her words shattered everything. "It's strange, you know, he doesn't even know she's his daughter." Micah staggered back a step, his chest tightened, the sound of the rain became distant, like the world had slowed down. 1,000 thoughts rushed through his mind, but only one mattered now: she's my daughter. The necklace, the eyes, the unexplainable pull. It all made sense. He had fallen in love with a little girl over days of yam trays and storybooks, never realizing she was his own blood. Without thinking, he pushed open the hut's door. Grace stood, shocked. Her lips parted. "Why didn't you tell me?" Micah's voice cracked, eyes burning. "Why didn't you tell me she was mine?" Tears rolled down her cheeks. "Because I didn't want your pity," she said, trembling. You left me once, without a word. I thought, you'd leave her too. Micah shook his head, I didn't know. But now I do. And I swear, I'll never leave again. And somewhere behind the curtain, Hope listened quietly, heart pounding like the rain on the roof. Hope peeked from behind the curtain, her tiny fingers clutching the edge. Her eyes were wide, filled with questions too big for a 6-year-old to carry. Micah noticed her and slowly knelt down, rainwater still dripping from his clothes. She took a timid step forward. Are you really, my dad? She asked, her voice so soft it could have been missed by the wind. Micah didn't answer with words. That he opened his arms. Hope ran to him, the tray of yams forgotten, her little body crashing into his chest. He wrapped his arms around her, tight, as if trying to hold all the lost years in one embrace. Yes, my star, he whispered into her hair. And I will never leave you again. Grace turned away, hiding her tears, but Micah saw. He reached into his coat pocket and pulled something out, a small velvet box. That he opened it, revealing a ring. I was going to give this to someone else, he said softly, placing the ring on the wooden table. But now I know, that would have been the wrong choice. Grace's eyes widened. I love you, he said. And I want to do this right. Not out of guilt. Not out of pity. Out of love. For her. For us. Grace covered her mouth, her knees weak. That I'm not asking for a perfect life, Micah continued. Just the chance to fix what I broke. Before she could answer, his phone buzzed. A voice note lit up the screen. Tiana, Micah, please don't decide anything yet. I need to tell you something. I'm pregnant. His hand trembled. Grace saw the screen. Her face froze. Hope looked up at him, still holding on. Now, he was no longer caught between right and wrong, he was caught between two families. Micah stood frozen, the words echoing in his mind. I'm pregnant. The rain had stopped, but inside, a storm was brewing. Hope looked up at him with innocent eyes, her arms still wrapped around his waist. Grace stood silently, her face pale, waiting for his next move. The ring on the table now felt like a ticking clock. Micah took a deep breath. Need to go, he whispered. Grace didn't stop him. She just nodded once, as if she already knew this moment would come. Back in the city, Micah's car pulled into his mansion. Tiana was waiting at the door, her face streaked with tears, a hand resting protectively on her stomach. You found her, didn't you? She said. Micah nodded. And I found something else too. Tiana stepped closer. Micah, I didn't plan this. I didn't mean to trap you. I know, he said gently. But this changes everything. She swallowed hard. What are you going to do? Micah didn't answer right away. He sat down, stared out the window. I spent my life chasing power, he said. But for the first time, I felt real love. In a village. On a dirt road. With a girl selling yams and calling me sir. He looked at her. I won't abandon my child, Tiana, but I can't lie to you either. My heart it's already home. Tiana's lips quivered. So that's it? Micah stood, walked to her, and gently took her hand. We'll raise our son together, but we won't pretend to be in love. He deserves honesty just like Hope does. Days later, he returned to the village. This time, not in a suit. He walked to the hut, knelt before Grace and Hope, holding both their hands. I've made my choice, he said. I choose you. I choose our family. Forever. And in that moment, under the quiet sky, Micah Okoro finally found the one thing money could never buy, a second chance.